What to say for prayer before the sermon, and so let's pray. Here we go. Good morning, Lord. It's been a long time coming, and I pray for brevity like Pastor Bruce. I pray for length like Pastor Jim, and a little bit of humor like Gary when he preaches. The only thing I do know, Lord, is I could dress up and wear makeup this morning. And that I have you by my side, Lord, because you've been with me the entire way. And Lord, that I just can give a message this morning that reaches someone in here, or that they use my message to reach someone that they know and live for you. And that they go from lukewarm to fired up for you and become bold Christians. Amen. Earlier this morning, the computer just recognized me, and I thought, wow, have I changed that much? So, I guess I better update the facial recognition on this computer. Anyways, when this journey began for me, it actually began after Hurricane Andrew, and for those of you that were here in Florida, and Hurricane Andrew happened August, I think, 24th in 1992. Yes? My Miami friends. So I had gone down to issue food stamps after the hurricane, which was quite interesting. I had never issued food stamps with militia and army people with guns, and it was quite interesting to see people who had been taken from relative wealth and, to just absolute pure desperation and poverty. And the journey for me began at that time because I wasn't even there a week and had a quite bad hit and run accident and had to come home. And so that journey for me has been since that point in September of 1992 when I had my first accident, and then again in 2000 when those of you who are here that know Christian, our youngest son, I was pregnant with him, and I was actually hit by a car while walking in a parking lot. And I thought, there's humor in that, because how do you, that was when bright colors were in like they are now, and I was in bright yellow pants. I've never been a small person, ever. As my friends would like to say, you're so healthy. I'm like, yeah, I like that word. I say, no, I've just never been a small girl. So I was in bright yellow pants, pregnant, and crossing through a parking lot and was hit by a car. So my journey in pain has been a long time of suffering and pain. But we're not here to really talk about all of that today, but talk about how my faith was awakened actually between the days of January 1st and January 7th of this year. And how being a lukewarm Christian, which I consider myself now, I don't know that I ever thought about myself as that because, I've just always been a good little Christian girl. I come to church, I've made sure my kids were raised in the church, and, I've taken my turn in church leadership, and I've taken my turn doing youth ministry for 8 years, and, Sunday school teacher. I was a church organist for a while, so I was like, I'm a pretty good Christian, and I can afford to take a break here and there, And so after this experience that happened to me January of this year, I said, wow, I'm a pretty miserable failure as a Christian. So today's message is a bold faith awakened in a lukewarm Christian. And for those of you sitting here that are going to hopefully re-examine your lives as Christians, I just urge you to think about, the Christianity. And I actually read a really interesting book about how to be a member of a church, and it really just changed my perspective. And thought, wow, we come to church to feel like we should be the ones getting served, and we're supposed to be the ones serving. And it's very interesting. So here we go. Get ready. First of all, the verse that kept coming to me over this journey, for the last 7 to 8 months now, I haven't been able to work because I've been able to walk but not well. My family has suffered the brunt of it, but when I come out in public, I really try my hardest to make it appear that I'm perfectly normal, which has been pretty much the course of my life for the past 4 to 5 years, making myself appear the professional, senior level management person that I am. traveling to Washington, traveling to Texas, traveling to Atlanta, and doing what I'm doing this morning, just not in front of my church members and my friends. I'm used to public speaking, I'm used to training, I'm used to doing all those things, just not in an audience of friends. So this is a little bit weird for me. But Joshua 1:9 kept coming to me the entire time, and it says, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." So this morning, I'm going to issue you a challenge because, I'm a bashful Christian. I do my thing. I don't say much. Everybody knows I'm a Christian because of my acts, but sometimes they question it because I'm not the best Christian out there, So the challenge to you is to stop being bashful about it, because in our society today, we are really bashful as Christians, and to really step out and be bold. And so my challenge to you as church members is to go out this week and find somebody that that doesn't have a church home and say, we're having Sunday evening Bible study, or come to church with me, or we just started, a new Bible study in Sunday school, come with me. Invite somebody to church next week. Now I'm telling you, you have to do it, so I have to do it too. But be bold and step out there in faith and show people your Christianity. Matthew 22:14 also tells us that for many are called, but few are chosen. And so if you go reference back to Joshua 1:9, he's commanding us. And the word command is a very strong word. It's basically giving us an order to be strong and courageous. And then I think Matthew 22:14 backs it up and says that many are called, but few are chosen. It's that we're called to be Christians. And so with the 6, 7, 8% of Okeechobee that attends church, we are the called, And so we have a lot more people out there that we need to reach and call for them to be chosen, And so that's my challenge to you today, is to take our faith more seriously as Christians, because a lot of times we either see people, or we even do it ourselves, we either willingly reject our faith, or we just secretly go against the will of God and go against the will of the Christian life. I'm very guilty of it myself. So that's the challenge for you this morning, is to go out and be bold in your faith. So next, as far as what happened, this was my 15th surgery, and I've had surgeries for just babies and gallbladder and things like that. But, I was always worried to have back surgery, but I was just to the point where it just had to happen. And so every time I go into surgery, I think, God, here's my report card. I think I'm a pretty good girl if something were to go wrong. So I'm like, B+, I'm doing pretty good here, God. But I think, how do we get into a rut as Christians, and how do we lose that fire, that spark in us? And so I just think that we get into the routine of Christianity. We make sure we get to church on Sunday, but just like our family, we can always find something to derail us. We can always need to just clean a little bit more because we were busy on Saturday, or for me, I'm in graduate school, so for me, not coming on Sunday evenings for the last 3 years, Sunday has been my day to do my schoolwork, because I was working 50 and 60 hours a week. So we can find any reason not to come. The pastor's sermon was terrible. Somebody at church made us mad the week before. Whatever it is, but we have to find a way out of that rut. So how do we get from the frying pan back into the fire? And you'd be like, well, why would you want to do that? But as Christians, that's really what we're commanded to do, is to be in the fire of Christ, And so why do we not want to step out? And I know that in this day and age, because of everybody being outspoken against Christianity, that it is really hard. So what does your report card look like? I've already told you, I woke up from my experience and I was like, wow, I'm pretty terrible. I'm awful. I flunked the test. I failed the course. I've got to start over. And so I just thought, wow, this was an awakening moment for me. And then, why do we keep score when there's grace? Why was I keeping a report card? I thought, God doesn't care what my grade is in his class. He really doesn't, because there's grace. So for me, I looked at the verse in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9, and it said, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me." So God's not keeping score. So at this point, I'm throwing away the report card. Never again will I go into surgery and judge what I am as a Christian. I know I'm a Christian. I know about salvation. I have no doubt where I'm going. So I don't need to keep score at this point. But if you're a scorekeeper, and you're not confident, that's what we tend to do. So what happens when you're given the direction and you make the decision to follow him? For me, between those dates that I really kind of lost, it was just such a strong command from him that at this point I'm not able to ignore the message. So I will show you next what it looked like for me. I don't know how well you can see it, but I looked like I was about 9 months pregnant with triplets. This was not a result of the back surgery. What happened was I had a condition after surgery called a paralytic ileus, and I don't know if anybody is familiar with that, but it's essentially a condition that causes your bowels to become completely paralyzed after surgery. And this was something that was pretty terrible. So essentially they have to pump your entire system. And my friend, who's also my sister from another mother, is in the back, and my husband were just a godsend, because had it not been for them, I don't know that I would be standing here today. So that's what I looked like then. So let's talk next about the miracle of Jesus. And the difference between spending time with him or with him, because when I woke up, I said to my husband, you're waking up from this, and I was never unconscious, but it wasn't really, I was in this kind of state of just, I really can't describe it, but I told him, I said, Jesus was with me, and he's like, yes, everybody was praying for you, and yes, the churches, and people everywhere were praying for you, and I said, no, you don't understand, honey. He was with me, like nothing I'd ever experienced before. And he's like, yes, and he keeps dismissing me as usual. And I was like, Joe, you don't understand. So, I was trying to explain to him. I said, it's not like, I was romping through the fields and I saw the light and all that. It was like this darkness, and he was there. Like I physically felt his presence there. And then as I started to verify the things that had occurred to me during those 7 days with outsiders, I knew. I had confirmation that he was with me. And then, there were specific prayers and petitions that I was making. And it wasn't until I fully surrendered in that state that those prayers were answered. I just remember shaking, and they say that I was cramping and like my back was having, I don't know, cramps or what have you, and that my stomach was just a mess. But it wasn't until I prayed this specific prayer, and I don't know a sequence of time, but I said, Lord, I don't need the answer. I don't need to know how you're going to do it, but I just need a break. Even if it's for a second, a minute, 10 minutes, I will not question it. And I had prayed fervently all the wrong ways to get this pain and this cramping and this shaking to stop. And the minute I prayed that way, which was the right way to say, I don't need to know the answers, I put it in your hands, God, they stopped and they did not come back. So I don't know if that was a series of a couple of days, but whatever it was, I can't say that that was anything less than a miracle of God at that point. Then, we're given only as much evidence as the human can understand sometimes. But I remember making petitions to him to say, please find somebody to pray for me. And I remember being there and being on heavy medication. And then Joe tells me he went home. He says, everything was fine, you were great. and being on so much medication that it was impossible for me to do anything but sleep. And somehow, with no glasses, not even knowing where my phone was, I don't know where they left it, I found my phone and called Elsie, my other mother. I called her. I never call her. She doesn't answer the phone. She never answers the phone. She's notorious. So I don't even know her number. I always call Terrell because he always answers the phone. So how I called her in that state to get her to pray for me, it's unexplainable, but it happened. I recall. And then I remember other issues and just saying, Lord, I have to find somebody to pray for me. Who can pray for me? And it coming to me that my Aunt Carol could pray for me. It's like, who can pray for me? And then talking to my Aunt Carol, she's like, I'm so glad you're better. I'm exhausted. And I was like, well, why? She's like, I woke straight out of bed, was awakened, and she's like, I had to pray. And every time I tried to go back to sleep, I had to get up and pray more. She's like, and I've never seen your mother. My mother's been gone since 1989. She's like, never seen your mother when I pray. I've never seen her in my sleep. And she's like, I saw her more in the last 2 days than the last 25 years. I'm like, okay. I have no explanation for it other than it is a miracle of God. So I keep saying, this is crazy. This doesn't happen to people like me. And I said, if you replace the word crazy with miracle, then it makes complete sense, So, the thing for me is like, why do we still question the evidence? And I think that's because we're humans, and I think that's because the devil takes his toll on us. He always is there, and he's always working on us. And we're not going to be able to escape that. So next I got to thinking, what makes us look like a disciple? What makes us look like we're fired up and we're Christians and we're, moving others to the same life that we enjoy? And I found this and I thought, wow, that's so true. How we just go and we'll buy a cross and we'll wear it and it's so pretty. But then I saw this and I said, wow, that really hits home, that wearing a cross doesn't make you a disciple, carrying one does. And that, we can wear the prettiest of crosses, but if we don't show it in our day-to-day acts of living and the way that we conduct our lives, then we can wear the biggest cross that we can, and it still really means nothing. So I looked Matthew 16, verses 24 through 26, and I put just 24 up there, but I wanted to go further into the verses because I think it sums it up a little better. It says, then Jesus told his disciples, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Or what shall a man give in return for his soul? To me, the first key in this whole verse is that we have to deny ourselves. And we're not really good at that in this day and age. I mean, we have smartphones and we have everything instantly available. If you need to know something, you Google it. It's the kids ask me a question, I don't know, Google it. My mother-in-law's come back and she tells our 11-year-old nephew, I don't know, Google it, just Google it, So we're used to instantaneous knowledge. And it's hard now to deny ourselves. So my next thought was like, what are you thinking, God? Why are you picking me? Because this shouldn't just happen to people like me. I just lead an ordinary life. I do my thing. Why would you come to somebody like me and do this? Because I'm just an average, everyday kind of person. And so then I started to ask questions, like, why did I feel unworthy? And so then I thought, well, why do we feel unworthy? Why do we feel like God can't perform a miracle in our lives? Again, sin, Satan, our friends, our family members sometimes, we just feel that we're unworthy. And I thought, we have got to stop feeling like that. We have to expect, just like little children do when they pray, we have to expect that a miracle can happen in all of our lives at any given time. And then I thought, well, why are we scared? Why are we scared of the challenge of following Christ? And it's the same thing, because you know what? It takes hard work. It is a lot of work to be a follower of Christ. So I thought, wow, it is. It's a lot of uncertainty to put your full faith and confidence and trust, because we get back to our human tendencies and are like, what am I going to do? But it was funny because Terrell, my friend over there, he says, honey, when the Lord gets closer to you, so does the devil. So you have to be on even a higher guard than you normally are. And I said, that's, wow, and sure enough, as I'm starting to talk to friends, they sent somebody to my house the next day to check on me to say, maybe you need to see the neurologist. And I'm thinking, I go to the neurologist on this date, and I said, and for your information, I'm seeing the psychiatrist too on this date. Because I'm thinking, you're not here to send me to the neurologist, you're telling me that I'm crazy and I need to see the shrink. I'm like, so just for your information. I said, don't think that I've been going through this whole process alone. I've reached out for help and have been getting help. Because with injury like this comes depression, comes anxiety, comes a whole myriad of things that we're afraid to admit are part of the problem. So, as to point 3, why do we deny ourselves? Because I'm a bargain hunter. I like to bargain, and I bargain with God, I'm always looking for the specials. 6 kids, you always look for the specials. You can't make it out of the grocery store without 2 shopping carts most of the time. Thank goodness they're grown, because I don't know how we did it. But we're always bargaining with God. And I always pray, God, thy will, not my will be done. But how many times that I've prayed that have I meant it? And that's the problem, So, for him to tell me to take up my cross, I was like, if I'm picking it up, we're removing. Because then I'm a black and white kind of girl, so I'm thinking, okay, well, what am I going to do about my house? And I've got, I need to get a job because now I'm unemployed. And then, the message came to me very strongly that you don't have to go anywhere to pick up your cross and follow him. You can bloom where you're planted. You're right here. There's plenty of work to do right here. I thought, wow, it's almost like he hit me in the head or something. So, and then my last point on this was, like, what in the heck are my family and friends going to think? They are going to think I've lost my mind. Because we're quiet Christians. We come to church and we do our thing, but, we don't sit down and have Bible study every night. I was raised a German Lutheran. You asked permission before you did anything, You went to church and you did the bazaar and everything. I always say that we were never volunteered for anything as children. We were voluntold. So we were just good German Lutheran children. If we misbehaved, it wasn't all the little grandmas in the church saying, it's about time that mama took them out and beat them. It was pretty much the hallelujah chorus going up saying, I would take her out and beat her myself, we just, we were just very quiet Christians. So, the other message that I got very clear from him was that when, we've always been told that when one door closes, another opens, and a message from him came to me very clearly that he doesn't close doors. He's like, when I open them, they're open. So I was like, wow, that goes against everything I was ever taught. It's like, they're closed because you close them or others close them or you allow Satan to close them. But once I open it, it's open. And I thought, wow, that's so prophetic. That he opens the door to salvation for us, and that's it. It's not closed. It's our choice at that point what we choose to do, whether we walk through that door and stay in there, or we walk back out of that room. But it requires our obedience, and that's where we struggle. That's where I struggle for sure. But he shows us the way, and that we have to remain faithful and steadfast and not be door closers ourselves, but also surround ourselves with people who don't close that door for us, because that's, a real problem. So fast forward to January 9th, Here I am, still in the hospital, but home later that day. I was worried, my husband had me worried that I had missed the first couple of days of school, even me knowing that school didn't start till the 12th, but I was panicking, and actually I had been locked out of school for a few days, so it was quite a thing to try and get situated with school and being in this, stupor that I was in. But I was home on January 9th, not like nothing had ever happened, but, awake and alert and certainly much more alive than I had been. So, for me, the call to action really was Jesus fueled. And so I thought, when you get a call to action, what really does it look like? So first of all, for me, the call was to stop. I was working insanely. Drove to West Palm every day, worked sometimes 13 and 14-hour days. Sometimes I would catch the first flight out to Washington and the last flight home to Washington and be writing grants on the airplane as I'm going, the whole time I'm at the conference, and as I'm coming back on the plane, writing to meet deadlines. So to me, I got a very clear indication that I needed to stop. I was having trouble walking, I was stumbling, I was in an immense amount of pain. So to me, I was just given a clear indication that I needed to stop. And I had basically a cyst in my spine and a slide of my spine. So your spine's supposed to move like this, and mine slid every time it moved. So, basically I kept getting the word from the doctors that I needed to lose weight, and I could probably use physical therapy. I can't tell you how many physical therapy visits I've been to, and it wasn't the answer. So for 7 months, I have been praying, Lord, just find me somebody who can fix my back. Please, just find me someone who can fix my back, who can identify the problem and know that I am not faking it. Because you have a lot of people that think that you're faking it, because I'd get up every morning and fake it every day just to get to work so that I could appear to be a normal human being. So the other message I got from him loud and clear was to listen. And I think about the little video of the kid he's like, listen, Linda, listen, honey, with the cupcakes. And if you haven't seen it, just YouTube it because it is so cute. But he made me listen during those 7 days to make profound changes in my life. I was set to open a business after I graduate in May, and he put those plans totally on hold and told me essentially through dreams and through conversation with the Lord that I would be opening a children's museum. And I'm like, Lord, you're way off track here. Because Leah and children, that's, pretty much a given thing. But museums and Leah, we do not go together, because people do not supervise their children in children's museum, and children are snotty and disgusting and they touch everything. So I said, this cannot be possible that you're asking me to do this. But I'm like, okay, you know what? I told you I'll follow you. Just, let me get out of here and I will follow you. But the message was so much more clear that it wasn't just to be that in my professional life, I developed programs, very successful programs that are actually nationally recognized. And they started here, but I don't talk about them here, So to me, to have the Lord tell me, you're going to start a children's museum in your hometown, I'm like, oh, Lord, you got the wrong girl. But it's more than that. It's about bringing arts and culture and music and education to our children in a way they've never experienced before. And to